Larry, I think people are very concerned that certain RINOs might be preparing to stab the president in the back. How are you feeling today, Larry?
I feel okay, buddy. Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's a tense time, isn't it?
Oh, it is, absolutely. And already, Mitch McConnell and the cast of characters in the Senate have betrayed the president in the original plans. So, yes, they're getting ready to stab him in the back.
How have they done that? Betray the president?
Well, originally it was planned that they were going to coordinate everything through the White House attorneys. And, for example, Lindsey Graham had made a statement 3 different times that I know of on the Sean Hannity program that he was fixing to prepare a resolution that they were not going to hear the case in the Senate. They were not going to hear the articles of impeachment in the Senate due to the violation of how the Democrats had conducted the impeachment hearings, how unfair they were.
Right.
So that was the way it was to be. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of last week, McConnell starts negotiating with Schumer. The next thing we hear, when there weren't going to be any witnesses, next thing we hear is he's negotiating with Schumer, and they are fixing to wait until they get the articles of impeachment. They're going to go ahead and call into session the trial, and then they're going to vote as to whether they're going to let, well, here's where it gets bad. They're going to let the House managers present their case. Then, of course, they plan to let the president's attorneys present their case, the rebuttal, and then they're going to call for votes on requests for for testimonies.
Right.
Now, the problem there is it takes 51%. So 51 senators are going to make the determination of whether or not they're going to hear a witness, right?
Mm-hmm.
To pull that off, they've got to have Mikulski, or whatever his name is, Collins, the guy from Nevada,
I don't know all their different
Arizona or whatever his name, the one that hates Trump so, that ran for president against Obama.
Oh,
Romney.
Mitt Romney, yeah, from Utah.
Then they're going to have Manchin and one other Democrat to be able to get to 51. So now it looks as though it would be a miracle to be able to get to 51 to shut down any witness testimony.
It's strange, Larry. I mean, you've got grandkids, right? Why does this impeachment process feel like playing Monopoly with a 5-year-old, where the rules are changing every 5 minutes and it's sort of whatever the kid says? Shouldn't there be some pretty clear-cut guidelines for how all this works?
Well, as a matter of fact, in the House, as you and I have talked and discussed before, unfortunately, in the House, there are no constitutional rules that have to be followed. It's allowed to be free form. There are certain historic rules that have been followed typically, but they weren't this time. But now in the Senate, it's constitutional the way things have to run. And it is supposed to run fairly well, just like a trial. Just like a trial. But Mitch McConnell has the ability to change that. Mitch McConnell can make a decision and boom, it's over. Or he can throw it to a majority vote. And in a majority vote situation, there's nothing anybody can do. I mean, there's no way to guarantee anything. And then what's going to happen, as I have figured and I think it's going to play out this way. They're going to go into calling witnesses. They're going to subpoena like Bolton. The president is going to exercise executive privilege. And it's not just because he doesn't want Bolton to talk. Executive privilege for national security advisor like Bolton is for future presidents. Nobody, no president ever needs to be in a situation to where his immediate staff or his immediate advisors can't talk in private to the president. You can't allow that. They have to have the freedom to have open and honest discussions without the fear of it being posted all over the world.
Yeah.
So he will have to call for executive privilege. When he calls for executive privilege, unlike in the House where they just rushed through it and said the heck with it, they will take it to court. They'll take it to court. And then what Pelosi has said publicly, that Trump will be branded forever for the rest of his life as being an impeached president, that will stick because it will go in court. Then it'll go into court. It'll be ruled on. Whatever the ruling is, it'll go to the appellate court. Whatever the ruling is there will go to the Supreme Court. And that process can't possibly be completed by the time of the election. So he would go into the election in an impeachment trial, which further complicates his ability to win re-election.
Wow. There was something pretty smart. I forget who said it. I think it was Rand Paul. It was Trey Gowdy talking about how this was being done to actually impact the votes for senators and to try to swing the Senate towards Democrats. That was an interesting insight, I thought. Did you hear that?
Well, absolutely. No, absolutely. Look, what I've said all along, you know it, I have said the Democrats are running an entirely different campaign than they've ever run. They're running on the formula of 50-50 versus the 40-40-20. They firmly believe that if they can beat President Trump based off exciting their base, both hard and soft base, to the point to where they hate Trump so bad that they will come out and vote, if nothing else, to get rid of him.
Right.
They know that people coming out to vote that hard to get rid of Trump most likely will not turn around and vote for a Republican in the Senate. So they're going to drag senators through the Senate based off the anti-Trump movement.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bad news. Now, the good news is, if I'm right, which, by the way, is if they're right, if we can get our base to come out and vote, it's unlikely then, using the same logic, it's unlikely people would come out in strong enough numbers to vote Trump in and turn around and vote for a Democrat back in the House.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty smart strategy, but it's a very, very dangerous strategy for the country.
Yeah.
We're in serious trouble.
And not only that, Larry, we've just had a viewer, Possums 1010, has reported the channel because he or she did not like the image, which today is a obviously photographic political cartoon that shows Mitch McConnell stabbing Trump in the back. So that person has just informed us that the channel's been reported. Not helpful in terms of getting this information out. If we are not available on YouTube after today as a result of that, people can go to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and continue to watch the show. It's also important that people who are watching us each week and who value Larry's input, they should visit nicholslive.com, and you can click right here on the donate tab. That's going to bring you the information that you need to share some financial support with Larry, you can go to paypal.com and use his PayPal address, nicholslive@aol.com. You can also send Larry cash through the mail or contact Mary Ellen. Her phone number is on screen right there. And you know, Larry, thousands of people have been watching each week as you give us these reports. It's interesting, when this all first came about, I was suggesting that it seemed to me, from a legal standpoint, somebody from Trump's legal team should have gone and put in a motion to dismiss this whole thing. And we've heard some people speaking about that. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley had put some pressure on Nancy Pelosi last week, saying that if she didn't transmit the articles of impeachment to the Senate, that he would start a process to dismiss it. I heard Rudy Giuliani on Judge Jeanine just yesterday or the day before saying that this could be subject to a motion to dismiss. What do you think about that aspect?
Well, what they were shooting for is there's one gray area in submitting the articles of impeachment to the Senate. It says in a timely manner. Now, what they were going on is trying to define what a timely manner is. Have they violated the timely manner? Right. And I believe they were close enough. That's why Pelosi, all of a sudden, is now pushing it through.
Right.
She had no intention of pushing it through until they started pursuing that track.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Look, there's all kinds of problems in a real, rational world with what is going on with this impeachment. There's real problems. But we're not in a rational world. Just like the person, turning you in to YouTube.
Yeah.
For your label or whatever you call it.
The image. Yeah.
God, yeah. I mean, come on. Get real. But that's also how dangerous the time is.
Yeah.
The times are when you run the risk of being stricken from YouTube over something like that.
Yeah.
So much for freedom of expression, right?
Right. I mean, it's an obvious statement about what the RINOs in the Senate could possibly be preparing to do. And Larry, I agree with what you're saying, and I think it was a great strategic move by Josh Hawley. I really have to say, he just turned 40 in December, and he's already in the Senate. That's quite impressive. I think that Josh Hawley is certainly somebody to keep your eye on in the future, and maybe even a future presidential candidate. This was very smart from both a legal standpoint and a political and strategic standpoint. But the slight difference with what Mr. Giuliani was saying is that once it gets to the Senate, the president or one of the senators could actually move to dismiss it on the basis that it fails to state a claim, meaning the articles currently are trying to impeach Trump for obstruction of Congress and for abuse of power. There are no statutes in any state in the United States that cover those things, so it could technically be dismissed for failure to state a claim.
Exactly. And that is true. The articles of impeachment do not meet, I repeat, they do not meet the standards required for impeachment.
Right.
They don't. But that would be, once again, in a sane world. That would be in a world when things work the way they're supposed to work. That would be in a world where we lived in America when the Constitution reigned. But it doesn't now.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got an absolute corrupt government.
Yeah.
You and I were talking before the program.
Right.
It's kind of insane. We're going to Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, and we're talking to these countries about you need to form these honest governments, these honest democracies. Ukraine, we're not going to send you anything until you deal with the corruption in your government. My God, look at ours. What pattern have we set for the world?
The hypocrisy is unbelievable, Larry. You know, it's
Yeah.
randomly a video from August 2018 came up, and it was Peter Strzok testifying before Congress. And they were asking about his counterterrorism stuff and counterintelligence stuff. And he was talking about Russia, saying that they imprison journalists and they kill political adversaries and it's a kleptocracy. And I said, wow, sounds like he's talking about the Clintons.
Right. So look, I mean, this is what I have feared all along about the impeachment. I mean, it's seriously flawed. If it goes, and look, know this, Mitch McConnell is no fool. So he knows the minute he opens up whether witnesses are allowed to testify or not, to being determined based off 51 senators voting together to block it. He knows he can't get it. Not now. One of the reasons they're making such a hoopla over killing this general.
Right. Soleimani.
Is because, it's given the Democrats something to use on the Republican senators to make Trump look bad. And you don't want to be caught protecting Trump when he's out assassinating people without, the right to do so. Now,
right.
Folks, the truth is that general has been on the kill or capture list globally through 2 administrations, Bush and Obama's. So it's sanctioned whether he was planning to strike something or not. It was sanctioned just by being on the list. But you don't hear that.
Larry, somebody had said that Soleimani was somehow involved in the 1979 Iran hostage situation, but I haven't been able to corroborate that. Do you know anything about that story?
I do not. I've heard the same thing, but once again,
never know.
What happens when something like this happens, if you're not careful, the rumor mill or the internet conspiracy world will have him being a part of the Kennedy assassination.
Right.
He wasn't even born or whatever. So, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know about that.
Right. Now, I had, late last night, I had a conversation with Larry Klayman, and he actually raised a very good point as to why, I've been hammering this motion to dismiss simply because I believe that the articles just can't stand up from a legal standpoint. But Larry raised a very good point that if they did do this motion to dismiss, it's likely the Democrats would just say that it was a rigged procedure and they'd use that against him. It's very much the case that they're always trying to create some kind of checkmate situation where no matter what you do, you go this way, there's a trap, you go that way, there's a trap. When you were involved in political planning with the Clintons, was that the way it went?
Oh, you bet. You always boxed them in. You always tried to box the enemy in. Just this morning, I hear Ted Cruz, which is going to be, I assure you, the mantra for the Republicans to use to turn on Trump so it doesn't look like they're turning on Trump. All right? They got to find a way to stab Trump in the back, but because his base is so strong, they can't look like they're stabbing him in the back. You got it?
Right.
So what Cruz came up with is, look, if they dismiss it, that's not the same thing as starting the trial, having the trial, and him being found innocent. And so it's better to have the trial and find him innocent than to dismiss it.
I disagree
now, there's some
with
truth
that,
in what
though.
he's saying.
Yeah, but the problem
There's
for
some
me,
truth.
Larry, what do you think about this? The idea with a motion to dismiss is it's one of those things that if you do it and it gets denied, you can carry on with the trial. But if you never do it, the opportunity to do it is gone.
That's about. Well, that But what I was going to say is, hey, there's some merit to what he's saying, except for one problem.
Oh.
We have no way of knowing, as he tried to make out, that him being found innocent is so absolute. If you
Right.
count the votes, it's not absolute at all, right? To get to 51, the way things are stacking up, you've got to have 3 of the 4 never Trumpers, plus you need 2 Democrats to flip. And I don't even believe Manchin. I don't believe he has the power to go against the Democrats on this. I just don't. So now, if you can't guarantee 51 votes to make him be found innocent, guess what?
He's guilty.
He won't be found innocent.
Yeah, that's why they've got to dismiss this thing. They've got to shut it down in the most expeditious way possible, because I agree. I think it's just a trick. I don't trust Ted Cruz at all.
Nope. Remember this. We're all going into it believing what the Republicans have all been saying. Trump's going to come out of this unscathed. He's innocent. Don't worry about it. Now, whatever you hear Washington say, it's always the opposite.
Right.
So I'm telling you, I don't like the way the Republicans are characterizing to their base, hey, piece of cake, don't worry about it. Don't worry about what we have to do technically in this trial because he's going to win. That's not true. If we're not careful, Jason, if the president's not careful, he'll be out of office.
Right. Now, Larry, you were telling me about a comment that Nancy Pelosi made. Do we want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi, to a group of Democratic congressmen this weekend, made the statement, Trump will be out of office in a week or so. Now, what does she mean? Now, number one, she can't get him out of office in a trial in a week or so.
Right.
But what she may mean, which may be more realistic, is what may be more realistic. She may know they're going to do the trial, and if they have the trial, they'll be out of office. That's
Meaning
what scares me.
she knows how the voting is going to go.
Yes, she knows if there is a trial, he'll lose. And it's rigged.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And, it was interesting. I saw President Trump on Laura Ingraham the other day. He was being interviewed by Laura Ingraham, I guess, in the White House. And he seemed eager to have this trial, which I do not think was the right way for him to be feeling. Everything you're saying seems correct.
Look, he has no option. He must project a positive image. He must. He's got to, Jason.
Yeah.
He has to. But I assure you, Giuliani, Jay Sekulow, they're not that convinced.
Right.
Now, on the other side of it, I don't blame President Trump. In a way, as a matter of fact, I know this to be true, he wants to clear his name. He has nothing in his mind to fear.
Right.
And he wants to clear his name. Mm-hmm. And he really wants a piece of Biden and Hunter Biden.
But they're never going to show up, right?
Right. So he's not going to get the relief he seeks. I can tell you that from being me. When they come after you, as they have me years ago, you never get your name back, Jason. You never get it back. There's no place to go and get your name back. And there's nothing President Trump can do to ever get his name back to half of this nation. Half of this nation believes everything the Democrats and Pelosi have said about him and will say about him. There's nothing anybody can do about it.
Yeah.
So he will not get relief.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it, Larry, is even though Donald Trump is very experienced in business and has been involved in a lot of lawsuits, I mean, he is still relatively new to this political game in Washington. And like so many people, we feel like, hey, I haven't done anything wrong. The law is going to, prove me right. But what you're laying out here and what we've been hearing about from so many of the guests here on Crowdsource the Truth is that there's just a myriad ways that can be, trap them.
Well, look, we wanted a person that was not the regular, everyday, professional politician. That's what we wanted. That's what we need and needed. And we got it. But now here's the downside of that. As smart as he is in business and as productive as his business acumen has been in bettering the nation with our trade relations, with our economy, etc., he's getting whipped like a yard dog from inside the government.
Yeah.
Because that's not his world.
Right.
It's not his world. And I don't believe President Trump is used to the closest people with him, people he appoints to his staff or cabinet level. He's not used to people like that stabbing him in the back.
I agree.
It's not the way it happens in the business world. It does some, but you make an example and it doesn't happen again. Well, that's not what happens in politics. And remember, Schumer told him, Schumer warned, if you come out against whatever deep state or whatever he said, the CIA's got 10 ways from Sunday to get you, and they will.
Yeah.
That's what worries me about the killing of this general, whatever his name is. How can Trump know that his intelligence community hadn't set him up there?
Right. Oh, you mean give him bad intel so he would launch a strike on the guy and then blame him for it? Yeah, they do that all the time.
They do it all the time. Plus, I'm waiting, just waiting. Well, what was his name, Esper? He's already come out and disputed Trump's explanation of the planned hits that the general had set up. Esper's come out and done that.
Wow.
So I'm waiting any day for several of the intelligence community to come barreling out and saying that he lied about all of it.
So that's the Secretary of Defense is going against Trump? Why is he doing that?
I don't know. The only thing we can think of is when Trump let off the Navy SEAL, must have made Esper mad because he didn't want him let off. He didn't want him to pardon him. Who knows?
Right.
How do you know Esper was ever in his camp?
Right.
Remember, Trump, to pick his cabinet people, he doesn't know them. He doesn't pick them. He has a committee. This committee picks a short list. And from the short list, Trump has to pick the one that he thinks is best, and usually that's based kind of on resumes and a short interview.
Mm-hmm.
No guarantee they're real.
Wow. Yeah, so I mean, that's the thing. When you look at somebody like Bill Clinton, who has been in politics his whole career and came up from the bottom and made his, dirty deals with the top dog back in the day basically Bill Clinton's involvement in the importation of cocaine through Mena Airport at the behest of George H.W. Bush, that made him a made man.
Right. And remember, Bill Clinton, like so many of the people in Washington, they're groomed professionals. I mean, they start out in the little leagues, and if they show promise, they move up and become state reps, and then If they show promise, they move up and become governors, then they become senators. But they're deep state. By the time they get to Washington, they're seasoned inside people. That's how they got there,
Yeah.
being inside people. Very rarely, like, do you have a Trump that comes in totally from the outside and beats the system and wins.
Mm.
It happens so rare.
I don't know if it's ever happened before, and the swamp is fighting back.
That's right. That's right.
Hmm.
I don't
Now,
think
Larry,
President Trump realized when he said he was going to drain the swamp. I don't even think he knew, Jason, how vast, how deep the swamp is in Washington.
yeah.
I mean,
Larry,
he didn't even know about all these different professional, bureaucrats that nobody's ever even heard of
professional
that have
swamp
jobs
things.
that actually run the country.
Now, Larry, Tamra's watching us here on Crowdsource the Truth too, and she says that Mitch McConnell's Kentucky office is not even accepting phone calls anymore.
Right.
They can't deal
Does
with
that
the
surprise anybody?
influx.
No. That's another one of their tricks. If you send them emails, which I would tell people not to bother, you send emails, they dump them, never even look at them. And if they start getting deluged with calls, they simply shut the phone system down.
Hmm. Yeah. It's really difficult to try to kind of put your head around this and figure out what we can do. I mean, people are doing their best. They want to contact their representatives and let these senators, I mean, obviously these senators don't care what people think. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the law. They don't care about what's right. They're just doing whatever they're doing.
Well, the Senate goes by the fact that they are considered the deliberative body. And by that, they are elected to 6-year terms so that they are not as heavily swayed by contemporary politics. All right? Unlike the House. And because of that, they know that, guess what? You may be mad at them now, but in no time, we'll get back to other matters and this will be forgotten. What they did will be forgotten. And they know it.
Larry, we got a good question coming here from Grateful Girl via Super Chat. Thank you for that, Grateful Girl. She wants to know what you think about AOC refusing to pay the Democrat, there's this $250,000 she's supposed to give. She's raising a lot of money, and she's refused to pay into the DCCC or whatever it is.
Right. Well, once again, this is AOC flaunting her power. And believe it or not, she has power. Her power is that she controls this young vote.
Yeah, she's popular.
And believe me, that the people in Washington, they are aware that there's a whole new group coming up in America called the millennials. And they're all trying to gain favor. And it looks as though they think AOC and her group are the leaders. That's why she was very smart. Dumb as she is, she was smart when she got behind, for example, Bernie Sanders.
Right.
I don't believe she thought for a second Bernie Sanders is going to win necessarily. But you see, it kept her in tune with that base of Bernie's, the young vote. And that vote gives her strength.
Well, Larry, do you find it ironic that she's a communist until somebody wants her to share her own money?
No, not at all.
That's the way it usually goes, right?
Right. I mean, look, she may have been naive to the system when she got there, but she catches on pretty quick as far as the money end of it.
Right.
No, she's anything but real.
Yeah.
But she fits right in. She fits right in. She's right at home in Washington, D.C. You know, people are screaming and crying. They can't understand why Elizabeth Warren, you know, all of a sudden has lost ground, and they think and they try to excuse it by hers being because she's a female, etc. No, it's because everything Elizabeth Warren said about herself turned out to be a lie, and she got caught.
Yep.
And people heard about it. And even the Democrats, unless she becomes the candidate, at which point the Democrats won't care, but at least at this point, even the Democrats resent somebody that lies about everything. Nothing she says about herself, it turns out to be true. Nothing.
Yep. Spanman is telling us that AOC thinks Bernie is too far right, Larry.
God. Well, once again, would that surprise me? No. No,
He's
it does not.
Joking. Yeah. But, I mean, it's true, you know. I want to ask you another question for a moment, Larry, because there was a press conference just the other day. William Barr was over there in Pensacola talking about this Saudi naval trainee who shot the place up and then they killed him. They recovered his Apple iPhone, and we've heard for some time that Apple has a variety of different encryption methods on their phones that keep the data secure so that thieves and even the FBI can't open it up and access your information on the phone. Now, William Barr was very defensive of the United States' relationship with Saudi Arabia. He reiterated several times that it was an important ally and training their people was important, etc. But he basically slammed Apple. So the takeaway from the Pensacola shooting is that Saudi Arabian military people roaming around with guns, that's fine, but Apple should let everybody open up the iPhone. What do you think of that?
Well, let me tell you what he's concerned about, and I know this for a fact. He's concerned, and justifiably so, as we all should be. You know, he doesn't care what books and magazines they read, any of that kind of stuff. What he's concerned about is, are they part of a cell, of a larger cell?
Mm-hmm.
So he feels we've got to find out what they're doing on their phone, who they're communicating with. And he's right. You know, in this particular case, he's right. When it's national security, Jason, they're not gonna get in to the guy's iPhone and publicize the stuff. That's not what they're gonna do. But we need to find out if this guy or those people, if they were part of a larger cell. And if so, where is it? And what are they planning next?
Well,
it's a very serious argument.
It's
very
true,
serious.
but see, the thing that concerns me, Larry, and this is often an issue when technology and the law butt heads, it's a matter of, you know, they're basically asking Apple to eliminate this strong encryption that protects not just the information of criminals and terrorists, but all of us. And it seems like a slippery slope once the law forces a company to allow this stuff to open up, because then the next thing is criminals get access to the technology to break the encryption and they can find out things about you or me, and the government can spy on everybody's phone. And even if you aren't doing anything, you know, this goes back to the Patriot Act and the whole concept of if you're not doing anything, you have nothing to worry about. I mean, that's one side of the argument. The problem is it enables all this spying on everybody. And look at what happened. We had the Patriot Act in 2001 or 2002, and 14 years later, we have a rogue president spying on his competitive candidate, you know, the candidate from the opposite party. It seems dangerous to me.
I'm not disputing that at all. But it seems to me this just seems to me that reasonable people can find a way without, opening the door for everything. Reasonable people should be able to work around this problem in this particular case. But you're right, we don't have reasonable people.
Right.
And so what we run the risk of is whatever's done becomes a precedent-setting case, and then it's all open. I understand. I was just explaining Barr's predicament.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be
Not trying
interesting.
to find out. Well, yes, it's going to be interesting because it, as you point out, which is exactly true, the reality, the unintended consequences can be serious.
Well, and not only that,
Very
Larry,
serious.
I think it's going to be interesting because of all the entities that could possibly challenge a government, Apple is the most valuable and financially capable company, I think, in the world. And it's just come out only 6 hours ago that they are refusing to offer any substantive assistance to the FBI and unlocking the phone. I support them in doing that. I think they hired the Mossad or something last time to open it.
Look, I agree with you, but then again, I understand Barr.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not trying to dispute or argue with you. I'm just saying Barr's in a spot.
Yeah.
And in a way, we're in a spot. If this guy's a part of a cell and they've got other things planned and they're able to pull them off because we could not find out about them because of Apple, who's going to be blamed?
How about expelling foreign military people from our military bases and sending U.S.
Right.
people to Saudi Arabia to train them? I don't like the idea of
Right.
jihadi,
Yeah.
sympathizers rolling around Pensacola, Florida.
Yeah, now you're getting to something that reasonable people ought to be able to figure out.
Right.
Why have we got in this country soldiers from hostile religions in our country carrying guns, running around on our military bases, our sensitive military bases?
Right.
That
The other
makes
thing-
no sense at
Right.
all.
The other thing that came out, Larry, during that press conference is that the Saudi shooter was able to obtain a gun through some sort of hunting license exception. I mean, bear in mind, this Saudi guy, he's not a U.S. citizen. He doesn't have
Right.
Second Amendment rights that allow him to keep and bear arms. It was some sort of
Right.
hunting exception that allowed him to buy a gun. I'd be all for eliminating that. I think American citizens have the right to keep and bear arms. Foreign intruders do not have the right to come here and buy guns and shoot us.
Listen, I'm telling you, that's a sensitive subject for me. When I came out against Bill Clinton, I was immediately put on the list where I cannot buy a firearm.
Ooh.
I can't buy one. Never done anything wrong, never been a felon, none of that. I just got put on the list because I was, quote unquote, an enemy of the president. Now, the problem is nobody's ever been able to figure out how to get my name off of it. So I can't get one, having not done anything, having been a tax-paying American
Veteran.
and this guy is a foreigner,
Right.
comes in and gets one.
And a murderer.
I mean, think
Larry.
about it.
Yeah. We've got a question that's asked almost every single week. So I think Barbara and Rod H. should tune in more frequently. And I tell you what, we're going to answer this question, but both of them should go over to nicholslive.com/donate and use Larry's PayPal address, nicholslive@aol.com, to send Larry at least $5 each when he answers this question. Barbara's question, Larry, is why have the Clintons not killed you yet if you know so much?
Well, Barbara, if you would have been with me in the late 80s when I came out and the 90s and had the attempts on your life that I did, if you've been beaten as many times as I have, you wouldn't ask that question. Now, I can only attribute two things. I made the cut. There was a period in time when I was open for them to do it. But thank goodness, eventually, I got to the point I was out in the public so much, all over the country, 20 hours a day, doing talk radio everywhere, in the paper all over the world. It became more of a liability to kill me because people knew that I ended up with a Arkansas,
Right.
that they did it. So
Exactly.
they got to figuring, I believe, that I was more dangerous to them in death than in life. But they still took their shots. They still tried.
Yeah.
The good news was, because of my background, it takes two to get killed, to kill her and to kill he. And I was able to defend myself. It was coming. Where people get killed most of the time in situations like that is when they don't expect it, they don't plan for it, and they get caught in situations that make it easy.
Yeah. I mean, you think about the people they've killed, Larry. It's lawyers,
Tell me about it.
strippers. Pretty bad.
I had 52 that I was taken to court to prove this or that against the Clintons. 52. That before I could get them to testify in court, get them to go public on the air, died right out from under me. 52.
52 different
Now I
witnesses.
know I'm accused. I know I'm accused of saying the Clintons killed hundreds of people. I have never said that, Barbara. Never. I've never said the Clintons kill anybody. I've never even said they order people killed. They don't have to. When you're the president or fixing to be the president, there are companies, there are entities that profit greatly from them being in power. And they will tend to business on their own.
Hmm. Now,
But
Larry,
it was dangerous.
yeah, along the
I
lines of
would,
what
I
you're
would never
saying,
want to go through it again.
of course not. And I appreciate you answering that, Larry. I know you've been asked that many times on this show. Larry, just the other day, this guy by the name of Angel Urania, who is apparently Bill Clinton's current press flack, this was January 10th, he posted a tweet here in response to Charles Ortel. People know that Charles is the host of Sunday with Charles every Sunday here on Crowdsource the Truth, and Charles Ortel is closing in on Wednesdays. Angel says he's writing it in the form of a dictionary definition. He says, or telling, past tense, or told. 1, to obsess and lie about the Clinton Foundation. 2, to only do interviews on Russian TV. 3, to have a close friendship with the Hill's John Solomon. Now, I responded to Mr. Urania with a recorded phone call where I called him up and asked him flat out what it is he feels that Charles has lied about. And he not only refused to answer, he not only refused to speak to me and hung up, he blocked me on Twitter.
Yeah.
Pretty cowardly, right?
That's generally the way it happens. You know, folks, it's so easy to come on here on the internet and take cheap shots at Jason or myself or Ortel or any of us. It's easy to take cheap shots and then run and hide.
Right.
Run and hide. And usually when they run and hide, not usually, always when they run and hide, It means they're the liar.
Exactly.
They're the liar.
Right. Because, I mean, listen, if somebody accused me of something and then called me up, I'd answer them right away on the phone and tell them what's what. I don't understand why this guy. I mean, he looks like a pretty tough guy to me, I have to say. He looks like kind of a dangerous character, but didn't have too much to
Right, yeah,
say.
you don't even know if that's his picture. You don't
True.
even know if that's his picture. Could have made the blue the whole time. You know,
We're losing your signal a little bit, Larry.
I
We're losing your signal a little bit.
don't know what I've done.
Are you
I
staying?
don't think I've done anything, but
Okay, no problem. You're back. You're back.
is
Yeah,
it back?
it could be a different picture, but I looked him up on social media, saw him on Facebook. I think it's him. He's posted some interesting articles, Larry. He's traveled to the U.S. Virgin Islands with Bill Clinton. About a year ago, he was tweeting that Bill Clinton had only been on 4 flight legs with Jeffrey Epstein, and he was in St. Lucia with Bill Clinton raising money for some project that was trying to put solar panels in St. Lucia. And he says in this Medium article, or whoever wrote the Medium article says, that they then went to St. Thomas. Now, as I recall, Little St. James is just a short boat ride from St. Thomas. So that's interesting. I wonder if this guy Urania has ever been to the Jeffrey Epstein Island.
Don't know. I don't know. Look, Jason, nobody has made the direct, full-throated allegations against the Clintons that I have. I have accused them of crimes on the air in newspapers all over the world.
Yep.
Front page of newspapers all over the world. Now, the things I have accused them of, Jason, I could be sued not for libel and slander civilly, criminally. Folks, do you understand? Criminally. Go to jail. And I did it at a time when Bill Clinton was president. Hillary and Bill were the most powerful couple in the world. They controlled the FBI. They controlled the CIA. They controlled the IRS. They controlled. If I had spit on the sidewalk, they would have put me under the jail. But they didn't. Now, why? Why not arrest a nobody like me with no money? Huh? Why not put me away? Well, the reason is they knew in a court of law I was telling the truth. And that was the one place, if I could get there, I could prove beyond a shadow of a doubt what I was saying, and they knew it. They knew it. So they had to avoid it.
Right.
So guess what? They used something better than taking me to court. They slandered me. And they had the power of the pen. They had, they had the power of the media.
Right.
So they made me out to not be credible to half of the people in the world.
Yeah. Well, that's what they do, right? I mean, that's social engineering in a nutshell, is that they convince everybody not to listen to you. They convince everybody not to work with you, not to hire you. And it's basically, as you said, it's worse than jail, certainly worse than court, because
Well, if you can think of it this way, Kavanaugh, what happened to him? People were watching Kavanaugh. The whole country was watching Kavanaugh. And half of the country was behind Trump when they were going after Kavanaugh. Mm-hmm. So people were able to comprehend to a great extent that it was a hit piece, a hit job.
Yeah.
But when they did it to me, Jason, people didn't know that stuff. And when I would try to tell people that they controlled the media, how many people would call in and say, oh, yeah, sure, they control Sam Donaldson, ABC, 60 Minutes, sure, yeah, sure. How many times did I get told daily, look, 10% of what you were saying about the Clintons is true, 60 Minutes would be all over it.
Right.
And I would go, you don't understand. No, they
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Well, that's just it. I mean, that's what I'm saying about social engineering. They're doing it at such a high level. I've been talking about it a lot with regard to how it happens on YouTube and in social media, but the Clintons have been doing this forever. And, you know, Larry, in our last couple of minutes, I just want to ask you about this article that appeared last Thursday at 6:50 or something like that p.m. in the Washington Post. So it's essentially appearing on a Friday in the first week sort of a new year where some people are still getting back from vacation. Things are sort of getting up to speed slowly. The headline says the Justice Department winds down Clinton-related inquiry once championed by Trump. It found nothing of consequence. But this is talking about, Huber, who was appointed by Sessions. And it's really a lot of fluff, but this preceded Angel Urania's tweet and Hillary Clinton putting out a tweet. You know, they're very into the Justice Department exonerating people, although that's not actually the way the system of justice works in the United States.
Right. Now, once again, Huber is an IG, Inspector General. So in his investigation, if he were even trying to be honest, he could only contact people that presently work for the federal government.
Well, he's a U.S. attorney, isn't he, Huber?
Well, he's a U.S. attorney, but he's acting as the attorney inspector general, I thought, having to do with now you may be right. It doesn't matter. He was covering up just like they always do.
Right. Yeah. Because, you know, the FBI had contacted Charles Ortel about a year ago to ask him if he had assisted WikiLeaks or if he communicated with Dr. Corsi or Julian Assange. And of course he hadn't. And he told the FBI agents about all this information he had with regard to the Clinton Foundation, and they didn't want to hear it. It's almost as if... No, Larry, I mean, imagine if the police knocked on your door tonight and said, hey, we got a call that there was a break-in at this house, and you said, no, there's nothing going on. But as a matter of fact, the neighbor is cooking crystal meth and has 6 bodies buried in the backyard. And the cops said, yeah, we're not interested in that, and just went home.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons I know it was never serious is because they never contacted me, and I have loads of data about the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah.
Loads of it. But you're not going to get there from here with the judicial branch of our government as it sits right now. You know, I've told you all that before. They've already got the communists. Our judicial branch is full communism now, folks. Full communism. We might have 2 to 4 people on the Supreme Court that might. Other than Clarence Thomas, I can't tell you for sure any of the others that I can swear are on the up and up. But President Trump's got to get another term because he's got to work on the judicial branch. We got to get it cleaned up.
Yeah. Yep. Well, listen, Larry, we're almost out of time for the show this week. Really appreciate you joining me today. Was there anything you wanted to share before we close it out?
No, just folks, once again, this is the most dangerous time in the history of our nation for our country. We are on the verge of losing our country. If Trump loses, we lose. We lose. They're not after Trump because of Trump. They're after Trump making a statement. How dare we, the people in this country, stick our heads up and think we have a right to determine or have anything to do with how our country is run. They don't believe that. So please help us. Help us.
Yeah. And people can help out Larry by going to nicholslive.com. You can use his PayPal address, which is nicholslive@aol.com. Send Larry some financial support. Keep the show going. Keep him coming back. Let him know that you appreciate hearing what he has to say each week. I do want to remind people that we've recently begun simulcasting the show. So if you're watching us on Crowdsource the Truth 2, or if you're catching the premiere replay on the Jason Goodman channel, you might want to head over to the Larry Nichols official YouTube channel and subscribe. Larry could definitely use the added subscribers, and we've got 192 people watching us over there, Larry, so it's been a really good way to help the word get out each week.
To the people over there, I won't be doing a second hour today. I've worn myself thin. But I want to also say to everybody, we need to help crowdsource the truth financially. Jason will tell you how. But the other thing, invite people to listen. This program needs to be heard. Please invite others to come.
Appreciate that, Larry. Thanks very much. Yeah, and people can share the videos for free on social media, tell their friends, email them around, and as Larry suggested, you can, of course, become a sponsor. You're going to get access to a huge and growing library of sponsor-exclusive content on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Tonight at 8 p.m., we've got another episode of More Pain with Mike Moore, so get on there, become a sponsor, and catch that episode of More Pain. Larry, we'll see you next week. Take care of yourself, and thanks for another great show.
You bet, buddy. See y'all next week.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. Have a great night.